A Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder. Chapter 20, Part 2. The night wasn't peaceful, not by a long shot, and when Hannah's alarm went off at 6 the next morning, she felt as if she'd just closed her eyes. Her dreams had been peppered with bullet holes, blood, and stiff cold legs sticking out like boards behind couches, chairs, and bookcases. There had even been a cow in her dreams, a huge homicidal Guernsey that had chased her over fences and past bubbling pots of cream. Hannah groaned and sat up in bed. Duty called. She had to bake the black and whites for the sheriff's department's open house. As she padded into the kitchen, stepping carefully to avoid Moish's morning rubs against her ankles, she wondered about the new hotshot detective from the Minneapolis Police Department. Would he approve of the way that Bill was handling the double homicide case? Sheriff Grant had obviously been impressed with the new man. According to Bill, he'd set up an interview the day that his application had come in the mail. "Here's your breakfast, Moish." Hannah dumped dry crunchies into Moish's bowl and gave him fresh water. Then she stumbled toward the coffee maker and poured her first cup. She must be a caffeine addict. She really couldn't function without a wake-up cup or 3 in the morning. She just hoped the FDA and the president's drug czar didn't turn her into a criminal by classifying coffee as a drug. Some days it was easier to operate on automatic pilot. Hannah didn't want to wake up to the point where she recognized how tired she really was. She slugged down only 1 cup of the steaming brew, enough so that she wouldn't fall asleep and drown in the shower. And then she went back to her bedroom to get ready for work. When she had showered and dressed, she came out to empty the rest of the coffee into a large-sized car caddy that Bill had given her for Christmas. She refilled Moish's food bowl, grabbed her jacket and keys, and stepped out into the pre-dawn freeze. The blast of cold air that greeted Hannah caused her eyes to snap open all the way. Her breath came out in white puffs, and she shivered her way down the outside stairway into the garage. It was time to break out her full winter gear. The garage was deserted. The cars lined up in even rows against the painted cinder block walls. Hannah hurried to her Suburban and jumped inside, cranking the motor over twice before it started. Time to plug in her truck too. The heater kicked in about the time she turned onto Old Lake Road. Hannah reached over and turned the levers on both vents to direct the warm air to her side of the vehicle. As she zipped down the dark road, she flipped on the radio, and the impossibly cheery voices of Jake and Kelly, the crazy duo that hosted Kekau's News at O Dark 30 show, assaulted her ears. She switched to Wheezy's mellow strains and thought about the peculiar call letters of Minnesota radio stations. If the transmitter was east of the Mississippi River, the call letter started with a W. If it was west of Mississippi, the letters started with a K. The same was true for television stations. It was all controlled by the FCC. Hannah wondered what the bureaucrats would do if a station built a bridge over the Mississippi and mounted their transmitter in the middle. Deliberately averting her eyes from the dairy as she passed it, Hannah made her way into town. There was no way she wanted to be reminded of Max's lifeless body this early in the morning. She spotted Herb Beesman a block from his shop and flagged him down. Plying him with the rest of chocolate-covered cherry delights in exchange for information, she verified that he'd talked to Mr. Harris at the Peterson farm at 8 on Wednesday morning. Hannah pulled into her parking place at 6:45. After she'd locked up her truck, she plugged in the head bolt heater and opened the back door to the bakery. The sweet, dark scent of chocolate greeted her, and Hannah began to smile. Next to coffee, chocolate was her favorite aroma. After she'd flicked on the lights, fired up the ovens, stuck on her cap, and scrubbed her hands at the sink, Hannah got out a mixing bowl. She had to make a simple batch of old-fashioned sugar cookies for the woman who'd catered the Woodley's party. Hannah poured herself a cup of coffee from the car caddy and read over the recipe while she ingested more caffeine. Mixing cookie dough was something she never did on autopilot. She tried it once and left out an ingredient that was essential to every cookie: sugar. When the dough was ready, Hannah covered it with a plastic wrap and stashed it in her walk-in cooler. The dough for black and whites was thoroughly chilled, and she grabbed a bowl and carried it over to the work island. She just finished rolling enough dough balls for 2 sheets of cookies when Lisa came in the back door. Hannah glanced at the clock. It was only 7:30, and Lisa wasn't scheduled to come in until 8 on Saturdays. "Hi, Lisa. You're half an hour early." "I know. I just thought you might need some help with the customers this morning. We'll be packed." "We will?" "You bet. They'll all come in to find out what you know about Max." Hannah's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "How did you find out so fast?" "I was listening to Jake and Kelly, and they said that Max was dead. Those 2 guys are crazy. They were making bad cow jokes and calling it a tribute to Max." "Bad cow jokes?" Hannah looked up from her task of rolling the dough balls in powdered sugar. "You know the type," Lisa explained as she hung her jacket on the hook by the door. "Why did Farmer Brown buy a black cow? Because he wanted to get chocolate milk. That was the best of them. The rest was so bad I don't even remember them. Do you want me to start the coffee and set the tables up in the shop?" Hannah nodded and slid the first 2 cookie sheets into the ovens. She set the timer for 12 minutes and walked back to the work island to start rolling more balls. Lisa was right. If Jake and Kelly had discussed Max's turn on their show, the cookie jar would be flooded with customers this morning. And when the news got out that she'd been the one to find Max's body, it would be standing room only. Hannah sighed as she rolled more dough balls in powdered sugar. If she were ever unlucky enough to find a 3rd body, she'd probably have to buy the building next door and expand.